My daughter cut me out of the wedding I paid for, then chose the same man my cheating ex ran away with. So I canceled everything and let the drama speak for itself. I'm a 57-year-old man, and I never imagined I'd write something like this, but I really need to let it out. It's been bothering me for weeks. Honestly, I don't know who else to talk to. This is about my daughter, Kay, a 27-year-old woman, and how she completely broke my heart. What she did made me do something big, and I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Let me give you some quick background because it's important. Kay is my only child from my first marriage. Her mom left us when Kay was just 7. She ran off to Europe with some guy named Tom. I raised Kay alone for 5 years before I met my wife now, Jenna, who's 45. I won't lie, those 5 years were really hard. I was a single dad, running a business and raising a kid who was heartbroken after her mom left. Anyway, about 2 months ago, Kay told me she was getting married to this guy named Ben. Kay and I have had a lot of issues over the years. You wouldn't believe the things I've dealt with. Still, when she told me about the wedding, I was truly happy for her. She seemed serious about Ben, and I hoped she was finally on the right path. But Kay and Ben were broke. She only got a good job last year, and before that, they lived off my money. Yeah, I know. I probably helped too much. They could only afford a courthouse wedding. So, like any dad, I offered to pay for everything as a wedding gift. Venue, food, flowers, music, everything. We're talking about a $50,000 wedding here. I'm not trying to show off, but I run a family export business that's been around for 2 generations, so I can afford it. I still remember the day we sat down to talk about the wedding. Kay actually looked happy, truly excited. It was the first time I'd seen her that way in years. She showed me all these wedding ideas from Pinterest and Instagram. For a moment, I thought maybe we were finally building the father-daughter bond I always hoped for. The wedding planner she chose had done many high-end weddings around here. Very professional, with a full team. Kay met with him a lot to choose decorations and plan things. I just paid the deposits and let her take control. It was her big day after all. Plus, I was super busy with work. And let's be real, I don't know anything about planning weddings. One night, she sent me pictures of the venue she chose. This beautiful spot by the lake, really fancy. I texted her saying I was proud and couldn't wait to walk her down the aisle. She just replied with a thumbs up emoji. Looking back, that should have been a red flag, but I was too caught up in the moment to see it. For the next month and a half, everything seemed fine. Kay handled the planning while I kept paying the growing bills. Seriously, who needs a chocolate fountain and an ice sculpture? Still, I thought everything was going well. I even got my tailor to start making me a custom suit. Jenna helped me choose colors and details. She's always supported Kay, even though Kay's been rude to her for years. But then, small things started feeling strange. Jenna's cousin met one of Kay's friends at a cafe and mentioned how excited we were for the wedding, but Kay's friend looked surprised and said, "Oh, I thought she wasn't inviting them." She said she had to cut off toxic family members for her mental health. Jenna's cousin asked what she meant, but Kay's friend just got awkward and mumbled something about Kay having a really tough childhood, then quickly changed the topic. I didn't think too much of it at the time. I thought maybe it was just a misunderstanding. But looking back, I really should have seen the signs. Everything started falling apart when my brother Joe called and asked about the wedding date so he could book his flights. I figured I'd just call the wedding planner to add him to the guest list. It should have been easy, but the planner started acting weird. He said, "Sorry, sir, the guest list is already full and I'll have to ask the bride if we can make changes." And I'm thinking, what the hell? I'm paying for the whole wedding, and this guy's saying he has to get permission to add one person? I pushed back and asked him to send me the full guest list so I could take a look. But then he said he wasn't allowed to share it with anyone. That's when I got mad. I admit, I probably could have handled it better. I told him straight up, "I'm the one paying your checks. Either send me the list or I'll talk to your boss." Yeah, I know that sounded a bit like a Karen move, but something just felt wrong. He finally gave in and emailed me the list. My name wasn't there. Jenna's name wasn't there. But the worst part? Right there in bold. Father of the bride, Tom, to walk bride down the aisle, Tom. The same guy who helped my ex-wife run away and leave our daughter behind when she was 7. The same guy who told my ex he didn't want to be a dad when they moved to Europe. The guy who literally looked me in the eye and said, "Kay's your problem now," before leaving. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about not being invited. She was trying to replace me, completely erase me. And the worst part? Kay had already been telling lies to make it look like I deserved it. I started calling everyone, my sister, my parents, even some extended family. Every single person I called had heard some version of the same story, that I was emotionally abusive, that I didn't support her, that I was controlling and manipulative. She'd been planning this for months, probably told Ben's family the same lies, made up a sad story about how I was a bad dad so no one would question why she cut me off. I must have stared at that email for a whole hour. I kept thinking I must be reading it wrong, but no, it was clear. The wedding planner even forwarded me Kay's emails. She had clearly told them not to let me or Jenna into the venue. She even wrote out instructions about security and everything. So here I was, $50,000 deep into my daughter's wedding, and I wasn't even invited. And not only that, she asked the man who left her to walk her down the aisle instead of me, the guy who hasn't even sent her a birthday card in 20 years. I'm not going to lie, I didn't take it well. I went on a really bad drinking spree for a whole week, like drinking shots in the morning, kind of bad. Jenna was really scared. She kept trying to get me to eat, but I couldn't. I just sat in my home office, staring at that email and drinking non-stop. I called Kay like 50 times that week, straight to voicemail every time. I left a bunch of messages. At first I was calm, then I started getting more angry and emotional. Looking back, it's pretty embarrassing. But what are you supposed to say to your kid after something like this? The worst part? Watching Jenna try to make sense of it. She's been in Kay's life for 14 years, helped raise her through high school, college, even 2 rehab trips. Yeah, that's another story. She always defended Kay, even when others criticized her, and this is how Kay treated her. Meanwhile, the wedding planner kept sending me invoices for flowers, food, deposits, all that stuff. Every new email felt like another slap in the face. Kay was still out there planning her perfect wedding like nothing was wrong, spending my money on a celebration I wasn't even welcome at. I later found out she was at her bachelorette party that whole week. I saw pictures on my niece's Instagram. Kay looked so happy, laughing with her friends, partying like everything was perfect. Meanwhile, I was at home falling apart, wondering what I did so wrong as a dad for her to treat me this way. Yeah, I know I probably sound pathetic. A 57-year-old guy crying because his daughter doesn't want him around. But seriously, nothing prepares you for this kind of pain. I've had business partners cheat me, went through a rough divorce, dealt with a lot, but this hurt more than all of that. I kept thinking about all the times I imagined walking her down the aisle, how I stayed in her life no matter what, even after all the drama, all the fights, all those 2 a.m. calls from hospitals and police. I never gave up on her, even when everyone told me to, and now she chose Tom over me. Tom. After a week of drinking and leaving the most embarrassing voicemails ever. Yeah, I listened back to them. They're awful. I finally sobered up a bit and realized I had to talk to Kay in person. Jenna told me to wait, said I should calm down first, but I couldn't. I had to do something. So I got in my car and drove to Kay's apartment. It's a fancy place, by the way, another thing I helped pay for until she got a job last year. On the way there, I kept going over what I wanted to say. I tried to stay cool, but my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the wheel. I got to her building around 6 p.m., rang the buzzer like 5 times. Finally, she answered through the intercom and said, "Dad, I'm really busy with wedding stuff right now." That's it. No buzzing me in, like I was some random stranger bothering her. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I lost my temper a bit. I started pressing all the other buzzers until someone let me in. I took the elevator to her floor and could hear her and Ben arguing inside. Then the door opened and Ben was standing there looking super awkward. Kay was standing in their living room, the one I paid to furnish, by the way, surrounded by wedding magazines and sample decorations. She looked at me like I was some bug she wanted to step on. "What do you want?" she said. I really tried to stay calm. I asked her nicely why she didn't tell me that Tom was the one walking her down the aisle. She smirked, actually smirked, and said, "At least he never replaced Mom." I was shocked. I said, "What? The guy who left her and never even called for 20 years? And I'm the bad guy because I remarried after being a single dad for 5 years?" Then she says, "Well, now you know. Good for you. Saves you the trip and the money. I'll send some photos if I feel like it." Like it was no big deal, just canceling plans or something. Ben just stood there looking like he wished he wasn't there. Then she says, "I had to make boundaries, Dad. You've always tried to control me. This is my wedding, and I'm not letting you ruin it like you ruined everything else." At first, I thought she was just being dramatic, but then Ben spoke up. He said Kay told him I had anger issues when she was a kid, that I used to yell at her and even threatened to send her away when she misbehaved. Then he kept going, saying I never truly supported her and always tried to control everything. I just stood there, speechless. My own daughter had convinced her fiancé that I was some abusive monster. I asked Kay how she could lie like this, to me and to Jenna. She cut me off and said, "Oh, here comes the Jenna drama. Poor dad and his perfect Jenna. Did it ever cross your mind that I didn't want your second wife at my wedding?" That's when I saw something that hit me hard. A framed photo of her and Tom on the coffee table, and it looked recent. That's when I realized they've been talking for months. She'd been planning all of this behind my back, using my money to throw a wedding where she could play happy daughter with the guy who ditched her years ago. I asked her what I did that was so awful that she'd pick him over me. She replied, "You're being dramatic. This is exactly why I didn't tell you. You always turn everything into your emotional problem. This is my wedding, my choice. You're just the checkbook, just a checkbook." After 20 years of being there for every crisis, every breakdown, every rehab visit, every late-night emergency, and that's all I am to her, a checkbook. I looked at Ben and said, "Good luck, man. You're gonna need it." Then I walked out. The whole thing only lasted about 15 minutes, but it felt like forever. On the drive home, I was in a fog. I had to pull over at one point because I couldn't breathe right. I was having a panic attack. I called Jenna to come pick me up because I couldn't keep driving. When she showed up, she took one look at me and just knew what happened. She didn't say anything. She drove us to get ice cream, like we used to do when Kay was a kid and having a bad day. We just sat there. I ate my sundae and tried not to fall apart in public, but I couldn't stop thinking about what happened at Kay's apartment. I called her the next day and she actually answered, probably by accident. I started asking what I did that was so bad. I don't know why I pushed for answers, but I needed to hear it. She exploded. It was like 20 years of anger just came out all at once. She said I was the worst dad ever because I forced a stepmom on her. She didn't care that I waited 5 whole years after her mom left before I even started dating again. 5 years of being a single parent, running a business, and raising a kid who was getting harder to manage every year. And Jenna? She's always been amazing to Kay, like really supportive. When Kay got caught with pills in high school, yeah, that happened. It was Jenna who found her a good counselor. When Kay was failing classes, Jenna spent hours helping her study. But to Kay, Jenna's just some gold digger who stole her dad. Then Kay brought up this old story from when she lived with my sister. See, things were getting really bad at home, so I thought a change might help. My sister has a daughter the same age, so I hoped that being around her cousin would be good for Kay. Nope. Kay ended up bullying her cousin really badly, made her life miserable. When I asked Kay about it, she thought I'd take her side. She got really angry when I didn't defend her. Yesterday, she said I was choosing other people over my own daughter, but she forgot all the times I did choose her, like when she got caught with pills at school. I fought hard to keep her from getting kicked out. I used every favor I had. When her grades were too low for good colleges, I used my business contacts to get her into a good school. Then there's the money. Oh, the money. Rehab costs a fortune. I know because I paid for it twice. The first time was right after college when she started using pills again. The second time was a year later. Every time, I dropped everything to help her. Maxed out my credit cards, took out loans, whatever it took. She lived with us until last year and never paid rent. I paid for her car, her phone, her credit cards, everything. Even with all the fights, the times she called Jenna terrible names, the 3 a.m. emergency calls, I kept supporting her because that's what dads do, right? But yesterday, she had the nerve to say I owed her this wedding, said paying for it was the least I could do after ruining her life by remarrying. When I reminded her I was spending $50,000 on this wedding, she got defensive, said a good dad would want to give his daughter her dream wedding. I lost it and told her she was acting selfish and ungrateful. Big mistake. She started listing everything she thinks I did wrong. Said I abandoned her by going on business trips when she was little, the trips that paid for everything she had. Said I chose Jenna over her because I defended Jenna when Kay called her racist names. Yeah, that happened. Jenna is Middle Eastern and Kay said some awful things about that. The last straw was when she said she wished her mom had taken her to Europe instead of leaving her with me. That's when I realized after 20 years of trying to be a good dad, she'd rather be with the people who left her. After that call, I was broken. Jenna found me crying in my office, the first time she'd ever seen me like that. Jenna, who's basically an angel, just sat with me quietly. She didn't say a word. Then Jenna finally lost it, not at me, but at the whole situation. In 14 years of marriage, I've never seen her really angry. She's been frustrated before, but not truly mad. She kept saying things like, "We need to protect ourselves," and that Kay has to learn she can't treat people like this. Jenna is a teacher, right? She works with kids who have problems. She said Kay's behavior was typical of someone who feels entitled and selfish or something like that. I sat there staring at all these wedding bills stacked on my desk. Venue deposit $15,000. Catering deposit $8,000. Flowers $5,000. DJ $3,000. All that money for a wedding I wasn't even allowed to go to, where my own daughter would be acting like everything was fine with Tom, pretending they were a happy family. Something inside me just broke. The next morning, I called my bank to try to stop all the payments. Most of the deposits couldn't be refunded, but I didn't care about the money anymore. I just wanted to stop this wedding from happening. I started by calling the venue. I told them I paid the deposit and wanted to cancel. They were pretty understanding when I explained everything. The manager even told me about his own kid cutting him off. Misery loves company, I guess. Then I canceled the catering, flowers, DJ, photographer, everything except the wedding planner. I didn't want Kay to find out and make new plans. Petty? Yeah, probably. But I was so hurt and angry I couldn't think clearly. While I was canceling, I almost stopped. There was a photo of Kay from her high school graduation on my desk. She was smiling in it, one of the last times I remember her truly happy. I almost gave up right then, but then I remembered how she smirked when she told me about Tom, how she said awful things about Jenna, how she called me just the checkbook. I kept going with the cancellations after that. The dress was already paid for and she had it at her place, so I didn't touch that. I'm not totally cold. Plus, that was the one thing she was actually happy about choosing with her friends. You know what's really messed up? While I was canceling everything, I kept getting automated emails from the wedding planner about deadlines like picking the final menu or choosing the father-daughter dance song. Each one felt like a punch to the stomach. Jenna stayed with me during all the calls to cancel things. I think she was worried I might quit if she left me alone. She even took some calls when I got too upset to speak. I remember her telling the florist, "No, we don't want to reschedule. We want to cancel everything." The whole time I kept thinking about how Kay would react when she found out. Part of me wanted her to hurt like I was hurting, but a bigger part was just tired. So damn tired of always being the bad guy in her story no matter what I did. Funny thing is, this wedding wasn't even the most expensive thing I'd ever paid for with Kay. Both her rehab stays cost more, but this felt different. This wasn't me helping her through a crisis. This was her using me while trying to hurt me. After it was all done, I just sat in my office staring at the wall. We didn't say much. What was there to say? I just thought about how it had come to this. Me ruining my own daughter's wedding. The wedding planner kept calling about final plans, but I let all the calls go to voicemail. Figured he'd find out soon enough when everyone showed up at the canceled venue. Is it bad that part of me was actually waiting for the chaos on the wedding day? Probably. But by then, I didn't care. The wedding day started normal enough. I was at home with Jenna. We both just sat there pretending it was a regular Saturday, but kept checking our phones every few minutes. It was like watching a countdown to a disaster. Around 10 a.m., my niece started blowing up my phone. The wedding planner and his team showed up at the venue to start setting up, but security wouldn't let them in. I showed the cancellation papers and everything. The wedding planner was freaking out, calling Kay and calling me. I didn't answer, of course. He was calling everyone. Kay showed up at the venue around 11 a.m. She was already in her wedding dress, full hair and makeup, ready for pictures. My niece said Kay looked really pretty, which somehow made it even harder to watch. When security told her the venue was canceled, she completely lost it. She started yelling at the guards, saying there must be a mistake. She tried to push past them, but the guards had to stop her from rushing inside. My niece said Kay was yelling, "Do you know who my father is?" Which is funny because she didn't even want me at the wedding. The best part? Tom never showed up at all. The guy who said he'd walk her down the aisle didn't bother to come. My niece said Kay kept calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. Some people never change, huh? Then Ben, the fiancé, showed up and things got even worse. Kay was trying to climb over a decorative fence to get inside the venue. Her dress got all muddy. Ben was trying to stop her before she got arrested for trespassing. The wedding planner was on the phone with his boss, completely freaking out. Then the guests started arriving. About 200 people, all dressed up with nowhere to go. Cars were backed up on the street. Everyone was confused, calling Kay and each other. Total chaos. The catering trucks arrived too. Guess no one told them about the cancellation. They couldn't get in either, so now 3 big catering vans were blocking traffic. Kay was still yelling at security. The guests just stood around confused, and the wedding planner looked like he was about to have a heart attack. That's when Kay finally realized what happened. My niece said she suddenly went very quiet, really scary quiet. Then she started laughing like she was crazy. She told everyone, "My father did this. He ruined everything." She called me about 50 times after that, left voicemails that got more and more crazy. I didn't listen to them until later, but wow, she threatened to kill me, kill Jenna, and burn our house down. Really crazy stuff. Around 1 p.m., Kay showed up at our house, still wearing her wedding dress, which was totally ruined by then. Her makeup was all running down her face, but she couldn't get through the gate because I had turned off her access code. She started holding down her car horn for like 10 minutes straight. Our neighbors called the police. When the cops got there, she was out of her car, throwing rocks at our security cameras and yelling about how I ruined her life. The police had to basically drag her away. Ben looked so embarrassed he wished he could disappear. I watched the whole thing on the security cameras. Jenna kept telling me to stop watching, but I couldn't. That was my daughter out there, breaking down in a muddy wedding dress. It was the worst day of my life. Honestly, I kept thinking this wasn't what I wanted. Sure, I wanted to teach her a lesson, but seeing her like that was really hard. Really hard. Later, the wedding planner called about the final payments. I told him to talk to Kay. He started saying something about his reputation being ruined, but I hung up. I just didn't care anymore. I found out later that some guests went to Kay and Ben's apartment for a last-minute reception with grocery store cake. Pretty sad, apparently. The days after the wedding were intense, like a disaster. First, my parents showed up the next morning. They're in their 70s and drove 3 hours to get here. My mom was furious. She yelled about how family should never be abandoned and how a father could ruin his daughter's wedding. My dad just sat there disappointed, which honestly hurt worse than mom yelling. I tried to explain about Tom, about Kay blocking us from the wedding, everything, but mom wouldn't listen. She kept saying, "She's just confused, and you're the parent. You need to be the bigger person." Easy for her to say. Kay has always been an angel around them. Then they dropped a bomb. They said they'd pay for a new wedding, covering all the costs so Kay could do it again. My own parents going behind my back like that hurt. Really hurt. But Kay managed to make things even worse. When my parents went to Kay's place to tell her they'd pay for a new wedding, she totally lost it on them. She started yelling that they were taking my side and betraying her, just like everyone else. Get this. She actually blamed them for her drug problems, said they exposed her in high school and ruined her life, which is nonsense because it was her teacher who told me about the pills. My parents had no idea. She told them this, and my mom told me later that Kay screamed at her to get out and never come back. My mom is 75, has a heart condition, and used to watch Kay every summer and spoil her. That's when my parents finally understood what I've been dealing with. Mom called me crying that night, saying sorry for not believing me. She said she didn't recognize the angry woman who yelled at her. "That's not okay," she kept saying. "Yeah, Mom, I know." After that, the family started taking sides. My sister, who Kay lived with in high school, fully supported me because she saw how Kay really was. But my brother Joe thought I went too far. It turned into a family fight. Thanksgiving is going to be interesting this year. Then there's Jenna's family. They never really liked Kay, guess why? But they tried to stay neutral. After all this, they're done. Jenna's mom called Kay some Arabic words I shouldn't repeat. My friends are divided too. Business partners look at me weird like they think I'm unstable. I got quietly kicked off the country club board. Guess ruining your daughter's wedding isn't a good look, even if she deserved it. The worst part is, I found out Kay is telling people I did this because I'm racist against Ben's family. That's crazy because Jenna is Middle Eastern and Ben's family is just regular white folks from Ohio. But the rumor is spreading. I lost some contracts over it. My secretary quit. Seeing all these fake stories about me online, watching my reputation fall, it's unreal. And through all this, there's a voice in my head saying, "You did this. You're the adult. You should have done better. I can't sleep most nights. I lie awake wondering if I went too far, if I should have just accepted it and paid for the wedding like a good dad. Then I remember how she treated my parents. These kind old people who only ever loved her. How she made my mom cry. And suddenly, I didn't feel so guilty anymore. Jenna has been my support through all this. The other night she caught me looking at old baby pictures of Kay. She just sat with me, didn't say a word. I think she's hurting too, but trying to stay strong for me. Then I found out from my niece's Instagram that Kay and Ben had a small wedding about a month after the mess I caused. Just like 20 friends at a backyard BBQ, Tom didn't show up for that one either. No surprise. At least they got married, I guess. Life started to feel normal again. Jenna and I tried to move on. I threw myself into work and was even starting to feel okay about everything. Then last week I got a call from an unknown number. It was Ben. My heart almost stopped. I thought something bad happened to Kay, but no. Things were way worse than I thought. Ben wanted to meet for dinner. Wouldn't say why on the phone, just said he needed to talk. I probably should have told him no, but I was curious. I told Jenna I was meeting him. She didn't like it. I went to a bar downtown. Guys, wow. Turns out Kay and Ben split 3 months ago. Why? Because she's been terrorizing him, throwing plates during fights, breaking his stuff, screaming for hours. Sound familiar? Ben said she lost it after they moved to a new city for his job, even though she got a job there too. She blamed him for making her lose her friends and got paranoid, saying everyone was against her. But here's the surprise. Ben apologized to me. He said he saw how Kay treated me and Jenna before the wedding, but didn't say anything because Kay convinced him we deserved it. His words, not mine. He said he should have seen the warning signs. Kay love-bombed him at first, was super sweet and fun, but then slowly showed her true self after they moved in together. By the time the wedding drama started, he was already walking on eggshells around her. Get this. She even got mad because he wanted to invite his sister to their small backyard wedding. She said his sister was trying to take over like Jenna did. Ben asked me if I could help get Kay into therapy. He said she's been falling apart since they split, calling him 50 times a day and showing up at his work. He still cares about her but can't handle the abuse anymore. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to say, "Welcome to my last 20 years." But he looked so broken, really worried about Kay. It reminded me of how I was at his age. So yeah, I went to see Kay. Jenna begged me not to go alone, but I didn't want her to deal with Kay's crazy mood. Kay's apartment was a disaster, really bad. The moment she saw me, she started screaming, called me every name, blamed me for Ben leaving, her mom leaving, and everything bad in her life. I tried to stay calm and told her she needed help. I said she could say whatever about me, but she had to see a therapist first. She just laughed. Then she said something that scared me deeply. She said she hated Jenna so much she wanted to kill her. Not just regular hate, she had a look in her eyes that terrified me. I left quickly after that. From my car, I called Ben and told him I tried, but there was nothing I could do. She's too far gone, but I couldn't give up completely. I reached out to Kay's old best friend from high school. Her family lived next door to us back then. She lives in South Africa now, but kept in touch with Kay. I asked her to talk to Kay about getting help. Surprisingly, it worked. Kay agreed to go to therapy and even apologized to my parents last week, though she still says she'll never forgive me or Jenna. I don't know what will happen next. The daughter I raised is still there somewhere, hidden under all that anger and hate, but I can't save her anymore. I had to learn that the hard way. Just wanted to update you all. Thanks for the support over the past year. Special thanks to other parents who shared stories like mine. It helped me feel less alone. I guess the lesson is, sometimes you love someone with all your heart, but still have to let them go. It hurts though.